My name is Bruce Fummey, and if I showed you my tourist snaps for the last couple of days, you might be able to work out that I'm in Hawaii. But would you know why? I reckon I might be able to reclaim this place for Scotland. So if you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. And if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up and share with others like you. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. This is Waikiki Beach in Honolulu. Now, if you automatically thought of the old joke, "Welcome to Waikiki Beach, have a nice day," I met that guy in the gents last night. If you're thinking, "Bruce, just tell me why this place has got anything to do with Scotland," then I'm about to. Spoiler alert, this story is going to end with a cynical takeover of Hawaii by the USA on behalf of its greedy business people. And there may have been a useful port at Pearl Harbor. Now, I knew about the Scottish connection for a while, but I didn't realise the intriguing early part of the story till I had a conversation backstage at a comedy gig in Kirkcaldy. The compere that night was the incomparable Susan Morrison. Susan is a writer, broadcaster and proper history buff. Not a Mickey Mouse one like me, a proper history buff. Anyway, I've shared many a stage with her, she's a great lass, and I'm going to put a link to where you can find her in the description below. So, to explain why I'm here to film this video, here's one I made earlier. It's very different weather, and this is Princess Street Gardens in Edinburgh. In fact, it's East Princess Street Gardens, the bit with the Scott Monument, the bit next to Waverley Station, named after Scott's series of novels. But our story starts before the monument or train station existed. It starts with a guy called Thomas Cleghorn, who himself had been born in Scott's beloved border country. But by 1828, he was all grown up and learned his trade, and then set up his own seed business and flower and nursery gardening business, which you might imagine was becoming more popular as Victorian times hoved into view. In May 1832, he took a lease on this land here. In fact, you can see in this map, printed 2 years later, that the area that I'm standing in now was Cleghorn Nursery and Flower Garden. Now, all this land was recently reclaimed from a fetid, stinking loch. If you want to know more about the history of Princess Street's Gardens, then I made a whole video about it, and you can come back and click the link top right. But even though newspaper reporters at the time suggest that Thomas Cleghorn had transformed this area into something more suited to the Athens of the North, there was a whole hoo-ha about whether the land should belong to the people of Edinburgh to put out their washing, and the railway was coming, and was this the best route into Edinburgh? And look, all you have to know is that by the late 1840s, there was a train station down there, and in 1840, when they started building this monument to Walter Scott, Cleghorn left his nurseries on this site, packed up his wife and young boys, and headed overseas.
Woohoo! We're going to Hawaii! We're going to Hawaii!
Matt, I'm going to New Zealand. This is Auckland Domain. Back in 1840, when British and local Maori people signed the Waitangi Treaty, one of the Maori chiefs gave a huge swath of land to the first British governor to establish what would become Auckland. Part of that land was the government's domain. Now, eventually, it would contain the governor's house, recreation grounds and botanic gardens. But at first, you can imagine a mixture of scrub, fern and bog on the remnants of a volcano. Someone was going to have to do a lot of work to transform that. And if you read the Caledonian Mercury back in Edinburgh in January 1842, it would have told you that Mr. Thomas Cleghorn, formerly of the Princes Street Nursery Gardens, who last year emigrated to New Zealand with all his family, has been appointed Superintendent of the Government Domain at Auckland, New Zealand. Let me show you something else. St Andrew's is a Presbyterian church in the Auckland suburb of Epsom, about 3 miles south of the Domain. And this is what I'm looking for. Here at the edge of the church is a Cleghorn stone. Thomas's wife, Janet Cleghorn, died just a couple of years after that newspaper article reported their successful emigration. Thomas remarried Sarah Ann, and he had an idea for another fresh start. He'd previously visited Hawaii, possibly on his trip down to New Zealand in the first place, I don't know. He had the idea of getting the Hawaii King's government to fund him so that he could establish what seeds, fruits and vegetables could successfully adapt to that climate. Everyone would make a huge bag of cash. So, in 1851, in his early 50s, he was on the move again with his new wife and youngest son, Archibald. Now we're going to Hawaii. Ah, you're back. This video was about why I might claim Hawaii for Scotland whilst I'm here, and I've been banging on about some gardener. But I had to let you know what brought us here. It turns out that the Hawaiian royals weren't interested in funding Thomas's cultivation experiments, so he had to go into commerce, and he set up a dry goods store. The only problem was that within 2 years of arriving, he died suddenly of a burst blood vessel. Now remember that youngest son that he brought with him? He's the real hero of this video. Just short of his 18th birthday, young Archibald Cleghorn found himself with his widowed stepmother in a dry goods store. Now later in life, Archibald would say in an interview that when he arrived in Honolulu, it seemed bleak. Anyway, he said he hoped they would not tarry long on our way to San Francisco. I have tarried, I do not regret it. I found my home here many years ago. By his early 20s, he was a successful businessman and expanded his operations into other islands. By the time he was in his 30s, he had 3 daughters, although he never married the mother. Queen Victoria would not have been amused. He and his Hawaiian Baidian separated. Now, don't get me wrong, Hawaii's a great place to holiday, but an even better place to holiday is Scotland. In September, I'll be taking a group of up to 25 people on a fantastic tour that'll take in Loch Lomond, Loch Ness, Edinburgh, St Andrews, Culloden, my hometown of Perth and more. Great hotels and full board, a comedy show, and we finish it all with a ceilidh. Now, there are very few if any places left at the time of recording, so don't hang about. Book your fabulous tour of Scotland with me. Archibald Cleghorn was now in the upper echelons of the Hawaiian merchant and business community. And one convivial evening at a businessman's club, he met David Kalakaua, who would become the last king of Hawaii, who would rebuild this palace, the Iolani Palace, technically the only royal residence on American soil. And he played the ukulele. Surely not since James I of Scotland has there been such a ukulele playing builder of palaces. At some point, Archibald must have met the king's sister, because 1870 turned out to be a big year for him. He became a Hawaiian citizen, and on September the 22nd, Archibald Scott Cleghorn, Bachelor of St Cuthbert's Parish, Edinburgh, married Princess Miriam Likelike Kekaluogi Kelahela Palapa Kapili. He was 35 and she was 19. Normal in Victorian times, but a wee bit creepy today. They got married here at Washington Palace. Now, this was also where the last Queen of Hawaii would be arrested when those American businessmen staged a coup to overthrow the royal family and the Hawaiian kingdom 23 years later. But a lot would happen between now and then. 3 of those 23 years later, Cleghorn started a 5-year term in the House of Nobles and an 8-year term on the Privy Council. He acted as the royal governor of this island, and he would later be named Prince Consort. When Robert Louis Stevenson visited Hawaii in 1889, he delighted Kailani with tales of her father's birthplace. But it wouldn't be long before she herself would see those cold, rainy, faraway islands. You see, she was to be sent to be educated as a queen in the European manner. It was for her that Stevenson wrote, "Forth from our land to mine she goes, the island maid, the island rose, light of heart and bright of face, the daughter of a double race. Her islands here in southern sun shall mourn their Kailani gone, and I, in her dear banyan shade, look vainly for my little maid. But our Scots islands far away shall glitter with unwonted day, and cast for once their tempest by to smile in Kailani's eye." Shortly afterwards, she headed to Great Britain to be educated at Great Harrowden Hall. Now, as 1892 progressed, plans were made for Crown Princess Kailani to be unveiled as a proper royal. Balls, tours of Europe, and a visit to be presented to Queen Victoria. But on the 3rd of January 1893, a telegram arrived to say that everything had changed. Queen deposed, monarchy abrogated, break news to Princess. The coup had taken place. And some years later, Hawaii would become the last of the 50 United States of America. Although at the time of writing, I believe there are plans for Canada, Panama and Greenland as well. The ousted princess never kept good health. And after going out riding in the rain one day, she took ill and never recovered. She died on Monday, March the 6th, 1899, at the age of 23. And today, Princess Kailani Victoria Kawikio Kailani Lunalelo Kalaninuia Hela Papala Cleghorn rests with her mum and dad in the Royal Mausoleum, the last Hawaiian princess, the girl who should have been queen, that piece of Scotland that is still part of Hawaii. The last Hawaiian princess, the girl who should have been queen, that piece of Scotland that is still part of Hawaii. Now, our Hawaiian princess isn't the only impact that Scots have made over the world. You know there's a video you really should watch coming up on screen now. Support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member, or buy me a coffee in the description below. In the meantime, Hami and Dawkins can be Lama alive. Sherry and Rasta.